Okay. Says I'm live. Hello. I says I'm live. Okay. Um that is that's fun. I'm gonna get this one of these times. I'm gonna get the live stream thing down, but hello, I'm here. Um we did something. So that is cool. See Chemo Dog has left message in the chat. Hello, Chemo Dog, if that's you in the audience there. But yeah, sorry, a few minutes late again because I don't know. Like one of these days, I'm going to get the live stream. I'm going to get it down, but it's going to give it a few seconds for maybe some folks to pop in, say hello, come and hang out. Maybe I'll make a little announcement. I don't know if anybody's in. No one's in here yet. Oh, one person's in. Yep, just letting some people funnel in. There's two. All right, cool. We got a couple people in here. Hello, everybody. Hey, how are you doing, Chemo Dog? Okay, y'all hear me good. Everybody, is the mic good? I think it should be fine. It's my normal mic that I always have. Love to do it. Thank you. I loved making it. Thank you for letting me know. I loved making it. It was a lot of fun. It was one that, like I said, I've been working on it for over a year. That was one of the first history videos that I was like, oh, I wrote this, but I was not happy with it at first, and then I was like, okay, let me put it through the ringer a few more times, and then I was thinking, I was like, after I took a little bit of a break, I was like, okay, well, I want to have something cool to come back with, and I dusted off that script, and I was like, oh, let me add to this. Let's add some stuff, and then and there it is. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to make, a lot of fun to put together. But yeah, just doing a chill stream tonight. I just wanted to get back to streaming, honestly, because it's a fun way, I think, for me to, well, first of all, like, be on camera, because normally I'm just doing voiceover and I'm like reading scripts, or I'm kind of like having a point with the videos. And I haven't done, I think the last stream was before HHN, was the week before HHN. It was like the hype stream. So this stream kind of being a little chill one, final stream. Last stream was great. It's fun to chat with y'all. Yeah, it was fun to just chat and talk, and again, I want to do it more often, just to kind of talk with you guys, because I really like doing that. I use the community tab a lot. It's something that I really enjoy. So yeah, it's just to chat with you guys. If anybody's got questions, topics. I mean, I had a couple ideas of things I did want to talk about. Like, for one, this past year, just things that have happened this year in regards to Universal, in regards to the parks, in regards to Halloween Horror Nights, in regards to kind of like a look back. Because I was thinking about doing a video look back, but I was like, it was something that I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't really think there was enough to talk about, and I just didn't really, I think the timing was not right on it. But yeah. This question, what is this? Says, what do you expect for next HHN Universal Parks? So I am actually, it's funny because I just said I didn't want to do a look back video, but I am doing a look forward video. Things that are coming, because that's the one thing I will say this year. Universal has announced so much stuff, like between Horror Unleashed in Vegas, the kids park in Texas. I know there's a question. Excited for the kids park. That's really exciting. The possibility, of course, like SpongeBob being an IP land, and of course, like the other like new takes on the IPs that we already kind of know, like DreamWorks, Minions, Jurassic World, things of that nature. And I think it's an interesting venture. But then kind of spreading out and doing like that Horror Unleashed kids park, this whole Great Britain park, that is all but kind of confirmed at this point. And of course, everything with Epic Universe and the domestic parks. Like there's just so much that was just kind of announced that I think we're in a weird period now with Universal that it's kind of like a transitional period between the Universal that was kind of coming out of the 2010s with like the Wizarding World and sort of the IPs and sort of like forming their brand, but now they got the brand, they got the IPs, they have the audience, and they're going to just run with it. And I think they're going to just run with it. Everybody's talking about the Universal decade, and I could see that just because I feel like they have at least a solid plan of how things can be structured. But as far as HHN goes, that I honestly have no clue. I like everybody talks about what they want to come, like what they could, happen. But I do think that the Halloween Hornets is going to be interesting next year. I think it's going to be interesting in the next few years. I think the past couple of years have just kind of been transitional period as the parks change, as the audience changes, as locations are coming, locations are going, things are being moved around, IPs and just the way it's being managed, icons and all that stuff. Lots of stuff has just been kind of happening over the course of the past, really since COVID. So now it's sort of seeing, again, them kind of getting that brand, them kind of running with it. So I think that's really what I'm super excited for. I'm just excited to see what they do now that they have the kind of breathing room. And I mean, there's more Universal fans, there's more Universal pass holders. I mean, I kind of came in as a pass holder myself. 2019 was when I got my pass. So I came in sort of at the beginning of that, sort of the people taking Universal seriously again, like as like, looking past like the Fast and Furious supercharged attractions, and looking more to like Hagrid's and Velocicoaster and what they can do. Holly Ever After, yeah, thank you for all the support. I know a few in here are like pretty frequent commenters and respond to the community posts, so like I really appreciate that. Thank you for watching. I like it again. Such a fun time to put together a video I've wanted to do forever, and I'm glad it stuck with some people. So yeah, I think the way that the parks are moving and the way everything is moving, it's going to be very different in the coming years. But I think it'll be exciting, and I think it'll be exciting like for someone like me, who's relatively new to doing videos on the theme parks. Like I've only been doing Universal videos really for the past year or so, and I did some before that, but mostly for the past year. So just tracking all the new stuff is going to be really exciting. And that's something I definitely want to do more of next year, tracking more of the park stuff, because I didn't really do much of that outside of HHN. Once it got into construction season and like updates and announcements, it kind of was just HHN mode all the way until November, from opening weekend to, September, October, going to the event. Even though I didn't film that much at the event, even though I didn't do that many vlogs or anything, I was there. I was there in places all the time, and I know I've seen some of y'all at Halloween Hornets, which is awesome. So I can't wait to be in that mode of like talking about it as it's happening. I think that's one of the coolest things about like Epic Universe, just because Epic Universe is this thing we're watching happen in real time, and it is really unique to sort of be in the content creator space, even though I don't really like to call myself that. I don't like to I'm just not like a big fan of the idea of content, but like whatever, like the creator space, in general, just people that do updates and stuff. I think it's really cool to kind of watch these things happen. And it's just now happening with the stuff in Texas and in Vegas, which I will be doing updates on for sure. That one in Vegas, because that's kind of my thing. When you talked about in your last video, how Haunted House Media translates stuff in the 80s and gave really unique twists, makes me sad. They haven't dig on comic book inspired houses. I think the curious thing with comic books now, I think because horror comics are becoming kind of like a marketable aesthetic. I mean, obviously they've done. Oh, here's another one. Like there's some comic books that make beautiful houses. Shame Cartoon World and Marvel fell apart. Hopefully they do Spawn House since it's produced by Blumhouse. Spawn would be incredible. I think and I think that you're right. Like I think there's so much stuff that you could do with comic books. And I mean, I know they kind of made it a thing last year with the tribute store, especially like obviously having the tribute to Terror, which I loved. I mean, I put my face in there. So it's a thing that I really like. I really like that aesthetic. I like that vibe. So I really would love, I mean, honestly, I just love them to do like I imagine like even if they did original comic like ultraviolent comics, like go back to that vibe. You know, they did a few ultraviolent comics like in between. I believe Asylum in Wonderland was also ultraviolent comics. And I know like they've had ultraviolent comic nods in the past, but like doing like a full comic aesthetic house like the Tribute Store, even if it's an IP like Spawn or like, I mean, I would have loved like a Marvel comics. I mean, Maximum Carnage was such a cool concept. And I think doing something with like, I can't even imagine like a Doctor Doom inspired house or like Marvel Zombies or like, you know, like even with the popularity of things like Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, I think that would be just so cool for a themed house. Or even if you were to turn to DC, I know there's always talks about them doing like a Warner Brothers Universal merger. I don't think Warner Brothers is in the place to do that right now personally, but you know, like if that ever does happen in the future, I think like that you could just run with that. Like so many possibilities for even just within the Batman Arkham world. I mean, I know that's like a predictable one. People say, "Oh yeah, an Arkham Asylum house," but I mean, they did it over in the Warner Brother thing in California. So yeah, Arkham Asylum, Nightfall. I think there's so many possibilities for even just Batman inspired houses, but also DC Comics in general have these really great stories. Swamp Thing's another great one that you could do. Yeah, lots of possibilities there. I know there's a comment here. They're going to have to figure out something out for the HHN crowds because so much money is left on the table when folks spend too much time in queues. That is kind of true. I think they're trying to get people, like I think as of the past couple of years, especially like this year and last year for sure, they're trying to get people into the streets and mostly buying food because they have so much food now. But like, I think you're right though. Like if you're spending so much time, like I know for me, when I would go to Horror Nights, and I had a multi-night pass, so I was like, I can't say the experience of someone who's just going for one night, but I also did not have Express. I ended up by Express for my pass, partially because I kind of wanted, like, obviously it's super expensive, but also partially because I was thinking, like, can you do this without Express? Even with a year like last year with Stranger Things, Chucky, Last of Us, these big IPs, I think you can. I think you could, and I did. I had plenty of house runs. I mean, I'm not someone who puts too much stake on like house counts and like, oh my God, I ran this house 40, 50, 60 times. I mean, that's great. I think if you do that, that's you vibe with that, cool. But like for me, I'm cool with just doing what I like, enjoying how I like it. But like, I think for me, kind of going back to the point of like house queues, I would go to do Stay and Scream. Most times I was there if I could. For the most part, I tried to make it so when I did go, I could do Stay and Scream just because I knew that was going to be a problem. Like I knew by 7:30 or 8 o'clock, it was going to get to the point where I just couldn't manage a lot of the houses. Like some of the houses had really interesting sort of queue experiences. Like I know Dueling Dragons was one that surprisingly had a lot of downtime. Like I feel like that house was pretty easy to get in and out of on most occasions. Blood Moon's another one I think was like pretty easy to kind of get in and out of. But like obviously all the IP houses, even like Oddfellow and Darkest Steel, because those houses had quite a bit of buzz. Those houses were and those are the houses that I would really want to do anyway. I mean, I liked Blood Moon. Dueling Dragons is one of my favorite, but those are the houses that I really wanted to be at. And most of the times I wasn't like going around eating food, mostly because the food can be a little costly. I mean, I'm putting it out there. If you're getting, each item ranges between, like $8 to $15 roughly. I guess I'm not too sure. I don't like have an average, but like, just because there's a lot of food out there. And I mean, I did try some food. I will say my favorite foods from last year were Hellfire Club was really good. The Surfer Boy Tropical Punch. I don't really drink like that, so I like the non-alcoholic one. I thought it just tasted better personally, but I love the Yeti poutine. That was my favorite, hands down favorite drink, our favorite food item. Sorry, favorite food item all year was the Yeti poutine. I got that thing more than once. which was really showing you. But kind of going back to that point is like you have this. There's not a lot of crowd eaters. Like only having one show is another thing. Like only having. I know they tried to make up with it by having like Megan come out, by having the what do you call it? Having Megan come out, the Death Eaters. Sorry, I was blanking. And having the Peacock Bar where people could buy drinks, but like, I didn't really find. I mean, I found myself doing that if I was like roaming the park, but I feel like if I only had one night, I'm not really worried about Death Eaters. I'm not worrying about Peacock Bar. I'm really just trying to get those houses done. So I think that there's a lot of overflow because there was one show, and that show is a very limited theater. There's only certain capacity that can fit in Fear Factor. So I mean, great show. I like Nightmare Fuel. It's more of a one and done for me just because it is kind of hard to get in and out of. You got to get there pretty early in order to get like a decent spot, or to not have to be like forced into a huge crowd. If you want to get a pretty, pretty good spot and have a pretty easy time getting into the theater, getting there early. But it without that second show, I know Kim Dog says that like it's weird there wasn't a Lagoon show this year. I know it seems like they're working on a new one because of everything that happened with the hurricane last year. And again, going back to that idea of like their brand, and now they're trying to do something new. I think they're trying to do like a better, more extravagant version of like Cinematic Spectacular. And in that case, maybe Marathon of Mayhem, which I mean, I love Marathon of Mayhem. I talked about it in the last video. I love that. That first Marathon of Mayhem it was a golden show. One of the best Halloween Horror Nights shows, I think, in recent years. But yeah, no, I think not having that show and just having the queues, kind of stretching super long is part of the reason. Just in general, like the fact that it's really hard to do everything in one night, even just all the houses. I mean, it could be done. Like, I'm not going to be someone who's going to sit here and say it's not possible. I've gotten close. I mean, I've been pretty good. I hit a pretty good amount of houses. I want to say one night I hit. This was in the end of October, so this was in sort of the busier season, I guess. I hit seven of the 10 haunted houses by like 9:30. 7 of different ones, and we did a few of them over repeats. That was doing Stay and Scream, and that was with no express. So it can be done. I think it could be done, and. But I think just managing the queues, managing the space, managing the capacity of everything is going to be something they're going to have to look into. Just because the event's getting more popular every year, and I know that's a challenge every year, and the park's changing a lot, so that's going to have to create some complications as well. I want to go back to this comment here. I'm very curious for Unleash how they structure it, like how they place the IPs, icons, Universal Monsters. Blumhouse makes me excited to see what stuff in both parks will be put on Vegas. I think it'll be pretty much I can see it being kind of like a smorgasbord collection of all of like the highlights. So like, I'm curious of how much lore they're going to dive into with Icons in Vegas, because it is catering to both Orlando and kind of Hollywood, because it's not in the either location. So like, I don't know if we're just going to see like I think it would be awesome if we saw like Hollywood Harry from Hollywood and maybe like Jack. I think that would be crazy. I don't know if they would really go that route. But like, I remember hearing a lot of people say when like Lil Boo stuff dropped last year, 2022, when that dropped in Hollywood, a lot of people were like, this isn't really our character. We don't have really a connection to this. So I wonder how successful dropping like, and really anyone other than Jack. I know like there's been talks about, that'll be kind of the setup for Oddfellow. I could see it, but I really see Jack being really the only character they do bring him, because they brought him to Hollywood before. They've taken him across seas to, I believe it was Singapore, has gotten Jack stuff, like a Jack house and a Jack show. So Jack's a marketable character. So that could be a character they use as far as icons go. I think that'll be kind of like universal. I think it's all going to be in-house. I think it's all going to be in-house, at least at first, just because having to rotate out third parties is going to be kind of difficult, especially when you have an experience that is on a year-round experience. It's not like seasonal, where you can sign a seasonal contract to Netflix or Sony or whoever, whoever third party. Universal's been trying to keep. I've noticed they've tried to keep a lot of their IPs in house recently. 2022 Halloween, that was like tied with Universal, I believe, because of the Blumhouse thing. And of course, they've used Halloween before, so they have pretty close ties with Halloween. Monsters is obviously theirs. That's their baby. And Blumhouse was another one that they've been doing. Obviously, it's another one of theirs. And then this year, Blumhouse with The Exorcist, Monsters again, Chucky, that's them too. So kind of keeping those same kind of brands, I feel like we're going to be seeing Chucky could be coming back in some experience. Blumhouse, I would love to just see kind of different experiences with these characters. Like maybe not everything is a haunted house. Maybe there's a haunted house for the big stuff, and then maybe Chucky gets a really cool, I don't know, like a scare zone type experience. I think Chucky could work well in a situation like that, especially like they did in 2018, or a more advanced like House of Illusions escape room with Chucky, or like I don't know, like doing them different experiences versus like everything gets a house, because I think like obviously I don't think they have the room. I don't think they have the room for it. It's a big lot, but it's not like they're not putting 10 haunted houses there. I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5 at the max. That is at the max, considering if they want to have other experiences like escape rooms, scare zones, merch, restaurants, stuff like that. If they want to add all that other stuff, I'm thinking maybe 4 haunted houses, and then all the other stuff there. I think that's reasonable. So I think they may want to do that, but I think it's going to be very universal. Like it's not, I don't think they're going to be getting like original ideas, because I think that's a harder sell. They're going to want to sell on those, Blumhouse characters, The Purge, the Black Phone, Megan, Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm sure, because that's such a success, the highest grossing Blumhouse film yet. Maybe some of the Monkey Paw, Jordan Peele films. Like all these little things, I think are going to be really it. I think it's going to be more IP based than anything else. But I know there's talk here in the chat about Jurassic Park, talking about Project Evolution, which, yeah, I think like Jurassic Park is such a great like idea for a haunted house. I mean, I know they've done it before. Jurassic Park House and Scare Zone, I think is such a solid idea, and I don't think it's too far off brand, because it's like I get the reasoning why they may not want to touch that, but also like I think it could be a risk like Dueling Dragons, where it's like Dueling Dragons wasn't necessarily a horror house. It was like it was a kind of a spooky, like the queue for the attraction, but it was still like a ride at Islands of Adventure. Like it was never like a Halloween Horror Nights experience, but then they twisted it to make it like that, but it doesn't like disrespect the original attraction. So I think that's part of it too. Like you can do Jurassic Park without really disrespecting the movie. I mean, they did it before. They did the Jurassic Park houses and stuff before, and I don't think it really stepped on a lot of toes, because Jurassic Park is one of those great films, and then the rest of the series where they drop the both like sort of the whimsical magic of the kind of like having the dinosaurs there, especially with the first movie, with like terror, because the dinosaurs are like, yeah, we're gonna come eat you. Like there's that dichotomy that you can have Camp Jurassic and the Velocicoaster and the T-Rex encounter. I don't know why I said that. Raptor encounter and River Adventure. See, I'm a bad theme park guy. River Adventure and like the Jurassic World ride in Hollywood, but that attraction, all that stuff is kind of fun. It's fun. It's not super scary, but then you also could have that kind of have be like the balance, and lots of fantastic puppet potential, and animatronic potential too. High Tech House of Horrors, yeah. I think that'll be what it is. I think it's going to be an advanced version of House of Horrors. Hard 80s fantasy house for sure. Sunrise is beautiful. So yeah, they do. Yeah, I think like Dueling Dragons, and especially doing it on the tour, them talking about sort of the love that went into it. Like it didn't feel like a corporate sort of Universal saying, hey, we gotta, A, get people excited for Islands of Adventure because we got an anniversary next year, and B, play to the nostalgia of like the burgeoning Universal adult crowd that we're starting to get, like the real like people that love to talk about those old rides. There's there is a desire to like show love to that ride and like really give love to just the attraction and put these little nods, the little Easter eggs to the Lost Continent, to Dueling Dragons. And I think that if they did that with Jurassic Park, I think it could be really fun. Even if they just go for like an adaptation of like scenes from the first movie, like even if they go total book report style, as people say, and just do it like that. I mean, I would love to see them do an original take because it is their property. They could do like a thing almost like they were doing with the Universal Monsters, where they make it like their own. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, like obviously, I don't see, like, I know Holly's saying like beheaded Triceratops with the spine. I don't think they go that far anymore, just because that is definitely something for like older HHN. I was funny because I was just rewatching The Art of the Scare, which is a great documentary for anybody who has not seen it. That is such a great behind the scenes look. I wish we would get more like that. Now we have been getting like the roundtables as of the past couple of years, and there has been like some behind the scenes stuff, but I would love another like just behind the scenes look. But obviously they want you to pay for a tour of that. But like, I don't know, like just looking into the creative process and like how they're building the haunted houses, I think that would be really cool. Anyway, side tangent. Getting to see clips of that, like really good quality clips of not just evolution, but specifically that scene inside the like Triceratops encounter, is really interesting. And if they do a house, I think that'd be great. It does like a little nod to that original house. Yeah, the 2000s, like it was such an interesting time for HHM because, sorry, I needed some water there. But it's such an interesting time for HHM because you didn't really have like, and I'm not someone I'm pretty new to the event. You know, I'm not like someone I can't be like, oh, well, I've been going forever. Like I can't really speak to that. And I don't have this hate for like the new fans or like whatever, because, you know, for one, it puts money in Universal's pocket. So they want those fans to be there, and they want those sort of young people that are kind of getting into Universal or Halloween Horror Nights as like teenagers to then grow up with the event, like a lot of people did, and sort of growing up with the event and living with it for many years, going for many years. But I think because the event is really accessible, sometimes there's like the hesitation, it seems like, to really go crazy. I saw that a lot more. I really want to say last year had a lot of that, for me at least. Like there was stuff that I'm like, I think had this been maybe 10 years ago, this would have been a lot more developed and just a lot crazier. Like I think they would have taken a lot more swings with certain aspects. I think that's why this year was so great for me, because I felt like it was a very ambitious year. You had a house like Darkest Deal, which had a fantastic story, had really well told story. Same thing with Blood Moon, I will say. Blood Moon had a really great story. Blood Moon was pretty gory, I will say. It's really got this gore factor to it. That was awesome. Oh, thank you, Holly, for popping in and saying hello, and Merry Christmas to you too. Yeah, thanks for coming and chatting with us. Yeah, like Darkest Deal having this story, Blood Moon having this story, Dueling Dragons just as an idea of them like saying, yeah, we're not just going to take a fantasy house, but we're going to make it like based on a ride that we did. Like that's insane. You know, a lot of just having these big IPs, having Stranger Things, Chucky, Exorcist, Monsters, like have all of that in the same year. It's a very ambitious like idea. But I felt like there was some stuff that was also very ambitious with that year that was kind of surprising, in sort of the I'd say post Stranger Things, post, you know, COVID world of HHN, post HHN 29. And so yeah, I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff there. And I think that I look back at like some of those houses from the 2000s and like, especially like more of the storytelling in terms of the world building that they would be doing, like stuff like HHN 17, 18, 19, even 16, like even 16 is such a great, like, it's so strong and it's so developed that I really was excited for this year. And I will say I really like this year, and I really liked what they did with that. I think it could have been a little more like tied in. I think the ties were a little weaker, but I like that we're kind of going back to that, and it gives me hope that we'll see another year like 17 or even like 19, which had to include the IPs, but also included the IPs and also had this original kind of thread. So you can only hope. Haunted Tales of Dark Steel were amazing. The Haunted Tales, I will say, also I wanted to mention real quick. Thank you, Ricardo, for the comment. Love your HHN related content stories. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. But yeah, going back to like the Haunted Tales and then talking about the website, like I wish we would have the website back. Like I like that we have the Haunted Tales, and I think the Haunted Tales are really great. I think the people that write them, I think the people that do the performances, and I think it's such like a great setup for it, and it does remind me of like sort of the websites, and like I think about the HHN19 website specifically, and sort of like all the backstory with the Palace Theater that really felt like it was almost like a haunted tale. And that maybe because they kind of put it back on the vinyl that they put out, they had this this Legendary Truth vinyl. They can, let me see, is it on there? Trying to find it. Trying to find my. It's under the desk here. Yeah, it's this vinyl right here. That was dropped last year. That it has this one, like the B-side is all just this, all of like the lore, like all of the lore and world building from like Castle Vampire, Hellgate Prison, the Palace Theater. So like having that really kind of reminded me of like kind of how the Haunted Tales are acting as that next step, obviously for the modern era, for the era of like the podcast, the fact that the podcasts are so important, and they kind of baked it into the lore of this year with the sort of static video, which I thought was really cool. But I think the like websites had so much personality. I don't see where the websites, I don't know if they'd be as popular now, just because of the fact that interactive websites in general just don't feel super like, I don't know of any like interactive websites that I frequent, nowadays. But like I imagine, if you like at that point, if that was you and if you were a Horror Nights fan, you would stalk that website, look at every little detail. I think it's so cool, and I think they're really underutilizing a lot of the social media, in my opinion. They're doing great what they did, and I love that they put out so much stuff this year. Like having the Oddfellow VR experience. I don't know if y'all saw that. It was like a Oddfellow little featurette, and he would go through the houses and you'd have this really cool VR experience. And it was great to get like a good look at Oddfellow and to sort of have this world building, like stuff like that, having like house POVs this year, having the behind the scenes. Like I felt like eventually once we got to the event, there was a lot of emphasis put on like, especially the YouTube, like let's put out stuff. Let's get people hyped about not just Stranger Things and Chucky and Last of Us and Exorcist and stuff. Let's get people hyped about the originals. And I think that's a really, really fun, a really just fun way to approach things. And I really hope next year they do more on there. I think Twitter, it's fun where it is, like kind of being a little cheeky, a little fun, just kind of poking around a little bit and having fun with the fans. That's cool. But I think like there's places with the social media that we have now that there could be more. And I think the Haunted Tales and all the stuff they dropped this year was definitely a step for that. Yeah, they're doing their best to replace the website, like the QR code quest and the audios. They could just use the Uni app. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is like they could just use the app. And that's my one big, like, I love Universal, obviously. I'm there. I make videos on it. My one biggest complaint, I think, about, like, guest experience, like, when I'm there, the app is really one of my least favorite things about Universal. It's not as bad as I feel like it used to be, but, man, like, there's just, like, I feel like the interface and kind of there's so much stuff you can't do on there that you should be able to do. It's just so kind of complicated when you do things other than, like, order food and look at wait times. Like obviously that stuff's super easy, but even if you're trying to like like just trying to navigate Windows is like really just kind of difficult, at least for me and my experience. So like really refining the app and then also doing a including like a horror night, really horror nights emphasis, especially with Vegas. Like I feel like if they include some kind of horror unleashed like section of the app that has whether it's like fun little QR codes you can scan throughout the event, little hidden stuff. They've been doing that with like Minion Land. Things like, you know, they have the Mario power up bands, incorporating that some way, like some that similar kind of technology in Horror Unleashed, or just, you know, just keeping it, keeping stuff, you know, happening, like keeping this interactive experience that you can have at the event, especially for a year-round event that people are going to be going to. You know, I'm sure, you know, if it's year-round, it won't change a whole lot. I mean, they did say it will be seasonal. They'll have seasonal changes. I'm sure they'll add things here and there to like promote stuff. But like, if it's a year-round event, it's not like Horror Nights in Hollywood or Orlando that they kind of have the novelty of like, oh, well, it's a new thing every year, so there's enough to do. If you have this year-round event that people can just go to every day of the week if they wanted to, it might get kind of bored. So having little things for them to do to make a land or an area feel more kinetic, because that's the thing too, is you're also with Horror Unleashed, it's like creating an area. It's not like here's a haunted house and a soundstage in the back of a theme park. That's just like, you know, this like really liminal space, which I personally find really fun to just kind of travel backstage. And I think that's really interesting. But like, you know, you're creating a themed immersive experience, especially with Area 15, that it would make sense to have some sort of tie with the app, some kind of technological aspect to keep it running like that. I really dig Psycho Scarapy Home for the Holidays would be a great movie, but probably based off Gremlins. Still wishing that for a house. Gremlins is one that you hope, because it is you know, it's the 40th anniversary of the movie next year, and you hope that they're gonna do a Gremlins house. And you know, it's one of those things that like you say, oh, it's like a white whale. It's one that, you know, everybody always talks about, but like The Exorcist was that at one point. The Shining was that at one point. Like it's like, I don't know. It's one of those things that it could, I feel like it could happen. There's always like this like strange, like, will they, won't they with Gremlins. And I would love for them to do it. I just want more Christmas themed haunted houses. I mean, we're in the season. There's a tree back there, right here. You know, we're in the festive season. And I actually have, I was rewatching the video that I made last year about the Christmas houses, and it's stirring true. I'm like, where are our Christmas houses from time to time? I mean, like, granted, it's not something you want to do every year because that'll get stale. But like the last time we had it was 2016 with Krampus in Orlando. In Orlando, at least. Obviously, they've had Holidays in Hell in 2018, 19, and just this past year in Hollywood. But doing something like Gremlins, a Psycho Scarapy Home for the Holidays kind of sequel, something like that, I think would be fun. I mean, I'm obviously an advocate for the Slaughter Cinema Holiday Special, but that is regardless. That is not the point. But yeah, knowing how they do Gremlins. Yeah, I don't think they do Gremlins 2. Maybe like do what they did with Texas Chainsaw and incorporate pieces of Gremlins 2, like the most iconic little bits and characters in a Gremlins house. It maybe I don't see, or like even like Halloween 3, like they've had little nods to Halloween 3 in the other houses. Like they had the, you know, I want to say they had the Silver Shamrock characters appear, and I think they had them on the TV at one point. So it was like you can do that with Gremlins 2, but I feel like if you just stick to the original, stick to the OG puppets all the way, animatronics, it would be a really fun one. HR Blend, I want HR Blendigood's back. I think that's a character that deserves almost like an icon status. In my opinion, like I don't think he's icon status at this point because I don't think he's popular enough. I don't think like he's like that much of a presence. But I think if they were to really expand on him, really do back more like backstory or like something like that, like just give us a little more something. Like obviously they did do quite a bit of lore with him because that year was a very lore heavy year. But yeah, I think that HR Blendigood's would be wonderful. The Thing. Now, this is an interesting one. I'm not going to say because I That may or may not be in a potential IP video, so I'm not going to talk too much about that yet. But they have been talking about The Thing recently, really for the past handful of years. I thought they were going to do it last year because 40th anniversary. They had the poster in the tribute store. I believe it's a Universal. I believe Universal owns that one. So I thought they were going to do it last year. They didn't do it last year. This year, I didn't really think it would have fit in. But next year, maybe they will, especially because they did mention at Blumfest that The Thing is definitely a white whale for them, the original Thing to do. HHN33. They did, and I thought about mentioning that in the 80s video, but I didn't really want to because it wasn't really. It was almost like a sequel. It was like their own interpretation. A lot of HHN33 with all the slashers was all like their own interpretations of like Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, and The Thing. I would love for them to do do it kind of in the style of those like 80s or just throwback houses in general, where they pay real close attention to the detail and the sets and putting you in the movie and putting you there. I would love to see that with The Thing. Hulk Hogan's character in the Gremlins house. Yeah, that like there's just so much potential for a good comedy in the Gremlins house. I'm glad they brought him back for HHN30. So HR Blood and Guts. Yeah, I think first of all, I don't know why I get kind of why they put the mask on him, but like I would rather him just be a face character because I feel like he's more fun when he talks. Like I feel like he's more fun when he kind of has those dialogue, instead of just doing the HR Blood and Guts where he says it over and over like he did in the house. But like I said, if like an HR Blood and Guts scare zone, that could be a lot of fun. Like an HR Blood and Guts Holidays in Hell scare zone, kind of bring back that concept. Maybe for Central Park or Hollywood would be a good one because you got a lot of room to play with that. But yeah, I think HR Blood and Guts would be good for. I think it'd be good for scare zone. HHN17 has all the best houses. I can't. I didn't go to HHN17, so I can't like attest to that myself. But looking at it, it's like, yeah. I mean, I like thinking about the fact that they got the New Line 3, like Leatherface, Freddy, Jason, all together in one event in Orlando. Because I know they've done like the Titans of Terror in Hollywood before, a few times actually. But like thinking about that now, like thinking about if they were to do HHN17 today, or I guess not today, but next year, like with 3 massive slasher IPs, that just breaks my brain. Like just to think about them doing that separately, plus The Thing, plus having Jack there, and I can't remember what the other hat. I want to say there was a Vampire House that year, but like having the Jack House, having Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, The Thing, like that's just a crazy combo of just. I mean, it's cool. It's an awesome thing, and I would love to see them, like I said, attack some of those IPs with a more modern take, like even more modern. Because I know they did Freddy vs. Jason, but like doing more of that, like more of a grounded approach to that, would be very interesting. Okay, Cocaine Bear. Now that's one that a lot of people talked about for this year, like kind of jokingly speculating. It wasn't really like speculation. It was more like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if there was a Cocaine Bear house this year? I think it could be. I think it could be a lot of fun. I'm thinking that Yeti, yeah, like Yeti almost feels like I want to say Cocaine Bear, but like I got a very similar vibes from Yeti this year. Maybe it was. I don't know. That's just theory that it was originally Cocaine Bear and then they changed it. I don't think that's true, but that's whatever. But yeah. But having like a Cocaine Bear themed house, I don't think the movie stuck enough for them to want to do that. Like, I think it was funny for the moment, but I don't think the movie like resonated with people. Like, it was the same thing as Renfield. Like, I thought like, oh man, I know they're doing their own Universal Monsters kind of like thing, but like a Demeter or Last Voyage of Demeter, like Renfield house, like that kind of take on the vampire, something a little different. But familiar enough. I mean, Renfield is like Dracula, almost like modeled off of Bela Lugosi. Those movies, I don't think, had enough staying power for them to want to do it. I don't think they're looking. I think unless it's in their wheelhouse and they know it's going to be big seller, like I have a feeling. Obviously, I know a lot of people say Five Nights at Freddy's coming. that's been talked about to death. But like that's in their wheelhouse, and that has a lot of staying power. The Exorcist Believer was in their wheelhouse. I know a lot of people didn't love that movie, but a lot of people love that house. I love that house. It was in my top 5 of the year last year. They really pulled it through on that last night, especially. But I think like seeking out new horror properties is really an interesting one. Like looking in places that are not just horror movies. Okay, let's see. I'm fun for the HHN19 lineup. Yeah, that HHN19 lineup, elite lineup. I when I was doing the 80s video, I was like researching a lot of HHN19 stuff, and kind of falling in love with that, like videos on the website, all the little features with the usher, reading up on the backstories again, and just kind of like looking through what I could find for the houses. Like Chucky there, I know a lot of people did not like the Chucky house this year. I will say it's better than the cursed full body costume Chucky's that they had at 19. But having what Chucky, Saw, Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, like that, like is another crazy kind of lineup, like of just a bunch of just heavy hitter IPs and characters, and of course then also having Leave It to Cleaver, Miss Mini Meats, having The Spawning was another Cary, Ohio. Of course, Silver Screams with the usher. So like having a few of those original houses as well was just like these are. I mean, maybe not The Spawning. I don't know if The Spawning's like a beloved house as much as like Silver Screams and Leave It to Cleaver, but yeah. Yeti, great theming all around. I think Yeti was very well themed. I will say very, very well themed. Surprisingly good when it comes to theming. Not one of my favorites of the year, but definitely a good one. Definitely a fun one. I did that one quite a few times, and I did enjoy it. What We Do in the Shadows also makes a great candidate for a house, such as Ghostbusters. I thank you, Ricardo, for saying that. I don't know if we're talking more about the show or the movie. I'm talking about the movie here because the show's not my favorite show. I love the movie more. The movie's one of my favorite horror comedies, period. I love What We Do in the Shadows. And I think it would be a great comedy house. I think if they put it, I think that would be a great for like a Men in Black 10 if they ever brought that back, or like a Fast and Furious. Like I don't think that needs to be like a huge showstopper IP. I think it could just be kind of a one they throw in there to add to the lineup. But I think it could be really, really funny. But almost kind of fit into like like a Hive. It almost reminds me of Hive a lot. Like kind of the idea of like all these vampires just hanging out in this house and stuff. Like obviously more of a comedic version of Hive. But like I think having the funny kind of dialogue quips in there. And I think it could do a lot. It could also have a lot of fun with like sort of the documentary aspect of it in both adaptations, whether it's the show or the movie. Usher's my favorite icon. I don't know who's my favorite. I mean, I really love Oddfellow, honestly. So your video was about the 80s. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I got lost. So your video is about the 80s. What if they do a year theme to the 90s? I think that would be really awesome. I think if they did a 90s year, I think you could do a lot of fun stuff with it. I don't want to just see them do like Vamp 95 or whatever, or Vamp whatever. I mean, I think a Vamp 90s year could be fun, but I don't want that to just kind of be it. I would love for them to really take inspiration from the 90s at Horror Nights, because the thing is with like the 80s, right? Horror Nights wasn't around during the 80s, at least here in Orlando. 1991, like imagine you do a 90s house and you go back to the Dungeon of Terror. Like, come on, like go back, like, or like SS Frightanic, or even like do a Hell's High is another one from the late 90s. I'm thinking about like all these houses that like you could revisit, give some sequels, obviously create some new stories, do some kind of like bouncing off of originals. I think there's a lot of funny things you can do with the 90s and making it not predictable. You know what I'm saying? Not just make it like the 80s years, but with the 90s. Really focus on that soundtrack, really focus on the textures, the different aesthetics of the 90s, what was really popular in the early 90s and the late 90s. I think that could be a lot of fun. You do need, Keep a dog. I know. Scream. We want Scream. We want Scream to come. That's one that I would love if they did a um, Scream house. Obviously, I know that's everyone loves that idea. Um, um, Here's to hoping IP houses we want come to fruition in the future. Hope you and everyone have a great holiday. Thank you, Ricardo, for coming in and putting stuff in chat. Yeah, thank you for being part of the stream, my friend. Vamp 2K based on 2K incident. I want to say, I don't know where it was, but I saw on somewhere that there was some kind of mention of the sort of like a Y2K themed, just something like a haunted house or scare zone, something somebody had pitched. Maybe it was in, I can't tell you where it was, but like the idea could be fun. Could be a fun kind of like the paranoia of everything. Could be really, really interesting, really unique. Yeah, just could be a nice little addition there. By the way, Fear Street would be awesome, incorporating all 3 chapters. I know my buddy Losh TV, great channel. If you haven't checked out his stuff, Losh has always talked about a Fear Street house, yeah, I mean, that would be a really fun, like, kind of anthology house. I know, I mean, I really like anthology houses. I know some people don't really. It's not everyone's cup of tea because you kind of have this jarring transition. But I mean, if you do it like Horrors of Blumhouse, I think it could be really fun. Like having, even if you have these like distinct sections of like, okay, now we're going into 1994, I think was the first one, and then the 78, and then the 1666. Like you kind of create this house that keeps evolving, or you do it like the original. I think the original Horrors of Blumhouse was the one that had 3. All the other ones have only had 2. So yeah, no, I think Fear Street could be an interesting one. I don't, unfortunately, unless they make more, I don't think they're going to have. I don't think they're going to do it unless they make more Fear Street. Just because I feel like Netflix, like right now, I think they're either going to take a break from Netflix or they're going to look to another sort of property, maybe a hotter property. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that Wednesday's in the conversation. That is a hot property, but I don't know what the licensing rights on everything on that one is. But Wednesday, I mean, that's a hot item. I mean, I know it's not like super scary, but it almost falls into the same camp as Stranger Things, where it is, it's appealing to that demographic. It has some pretty memorable moments, and you could do some fun, like Ghostbuster-esque scares, nothing too crazy. Art the Clown. Now, that one's interesting because obviously, I don't know if y'all seen, but Damien Leone is like talked about potentially doing a house with Horror Nights and Terrifier. I think that it could be fun. I worry about how much they're going to go for it. Like, like how much they're going to go in it if they make it happen. Are they going to kind of tone it down because it is Horror Nights, or are they just going to go and say, screw it, we're going to go all the way. We're going to have all these, everything you would expect from a Terrifier. I think that just because of the nature of it, I'm just curious. And we, talking about like 2000s, I feel like that would have definitely been something they would have gone for maybe, 10, 15 years ago, but now might be a little harder to get through. But again, we don't know. We don't know if that's in the works. I mean, Art the Clown is one of the new horror icons for sure. Probably the most memorable character, at least in the past handful of years of horror in this past like 10 years, I'd say. Just like everyone knows what Art the Clown looks like. Everyone knows what he looks like. Maybe Bram Stoker's Dracula, though. HHN33's Dracula house took a lot of inspiration from that house. Yeah, I mean, I think like the 90s sort of like era of Universal Monsters, and like obviously doing, the 90s had such an important impact of like bringing the monsters back. I mean, they had it in the parks, but also in the movies, like they did the Bram Stoker's Dracula. I want to say they did a Frankenstein adaptation at that point, like a big budget one. So I feel like if you did, honestly, I think if you did the 90s, HHN19 could be a good model for like how to do it. If you wanted to do Scream, I think Scream, I think Scream, one of the big slashers, I really say, if they didn't already do Chucky, I think Chucky would be a great one because he really had his moment in the 90s, I'd say, more than the 80s, because he kind of came at the tail end of that. I think the 80s was more Freddy, Michael, Jason, for sure. But I think Chucky could be a good one if they wanted to just like add another little character in there. And then I think a Blair Witch Project house could be interesting. I don't know how they would do it though. That would be a really complicated one. But I think there are ways you could do something, or maybe make a house inspired by that. Almost like take a approach that they've done in the past, where like you could tell some houses were inspired by IPs that they weren't IPs. For me, like Descendants of Destruction was clearly like Last of Us, Fallout, BioShock, all that stuff combined. Really just felt like a Fallout house. That was not Fallout. That was an original, maybe because they couldn't secure Fallout. Maybe it's because they I don't know. But whatever. Anyway, that house does remind me a lot of Fallout. So maybe you a house that reminds you of Blair Witch Project. Not as much like exactly like it, because it's, again, kind of hard to translate that. A lot of that movie is not really working for Haunted House. So maybe, I don't know. I'm just spitballing. I know it says earlier, what are your hope on HHN at Epic Universe? That is an interesting one because I'm not sure if they will go for it in Epic Universe. At least at first, because I feel like, for one, you have so many brands that are not going to, or so many of their own IPs that are not going to want to, because you're seeing kind of how they are. Like, obviously with The Simpsons and Harry Potter, there are third-party products. So like, you have Fox being Simpsons, and then Warner Brothers with Harry Potter, and of course like JK being very, no Halloween Horror Nights until recently. But you're seeing it kind of now with the Minions, where like the Minion Land was pretty much separate from Horror Nights this year. They didn't really touch it. They did projections on the ground, and that's it. No scare zone there. So I wonder, and I'm curious if DreamWorks is going to be the same way, where they're going to be like, no Horror Nights back here. Like, sorry, this is a kids area. We don't want to put any kind of scare zone or house entrances to disrupt the theming. Because as Universal grows as a brand, they're going to want to keep that brand integrity, just like, other parks have. But I do think that there could be something to say within. Really, I that's just what I think, because like, considering, like I said, Minion Land was untouched during Halloween Horror Nights this year. So like, I wonder if DreamWorks, now this could be complete, hooey. This can be it. Like, DreamWorks can totally be, included with HHN, just like it was in the past in Kid Zone. But I have a feeling with Epic Universe, especially with like Nintendo being so like about what they want out of Universal and the partnership, like they're very hands-on with their characters. I think that will be out of the off the table. Harry Potter, same thing with JK, obviously being very in control of that. How to Train Your Dragon. I mean, I would love if they had something there, because that's such a cool idea. I mean, obviously Dueling Dragons and Lost Continent, we talked about it already, but I think Monsters would really be it. Like, unless they did something backstage, or if they were like, okay, well, here's kind of Halloween Horror Nights on the property, but it's not like actually, but I don't see where they're going to do that. I think they're going to want to use the area for the park, and of course the facilities, because they're going to have lots of stuff there, hotels and things like that. So I don't see where they're going to do it, at least at first. Personally, that's just me. They could totally do that, and I could be, again, it is super early. I don't know anything about that. Obviously, no one knows anything about it. But we have this. I think that once Epic Universe opens, Halloween Horror Nights will expand here at Islands and Universal. I think it'll be a thing to get people to also, because you consider Universal wants to make their parks a multi-day, week-long or more. They want you to stay. They want it to be the Universal Orlando Resort. They don't want it to be just go to Universal for the day and then leave. So if you have Halloween Hornets at a different park, it gets you to travel to that park, potentially buy a ticket to that park, and stay to experience something at a completely different park. You say, okay, you have Epic Universe over here. Okay, over here you have Halloween Horror Nights. I think that could be another sort of kind of line of thinking of them, like, well, we don't really have the room for this, or it'll kind of clash with the layout of what we're planning, but we can also use it as a way to sell more tickets. That's just me thinking, like, if it were me, like, obviously I'd want people to visit every park, because I know people are just going to come to Epic Universe and that's that. But if you have that sort of allure for it at Halloween Horror Nights or at Universal Studios, but I think, like I said, I think they could go to using both parks. Again, I think if you kind of reduce the amount of people that are, if you kind of are moving people away to Epic Universe, you maybe create like a kind of a dual park event, almost like 2004 when they had both parks and they had parts of each park open. Of course, the sound stages are all still there; they're not going anywhere. They're and that's also kind of what I'm saying about Epic Universe, like putting haunted houses. They want to put all that stuff backstage. The only reason they have stuff on stage or like in the main park area is likely out of that they don't have anywhere else to put it. But like you notice at Universal at Orlando, all the houses are all behind backstage. You have the tents are all behind park area. The sound stages are all access outside of park areas. Parade building, same thing. So Epic Universe, I don't know if that'll be baked into sort of the construction plans, but also, that stuff's not going anywhere because that's all backstage facilities. So you could honestly do so much with just that left side of the park. I mean, there are usually 4 to 6 houses. I mean, in the past they used to have 4, but I feel like you could put as many as 6 houses back there in the sound stages, honestly. 23 has 2, 24 has 2, 22 they usually use, 25 is another one that they've used in the past. I mean, they used it for Stranger Things in 2019. So it's one that, hey, they could always use it just because you have that area there, and then use certain aspects of islands instead. So long-winded ramble saying I don't think it's going to be at Epic Universe, at least not at first, but I do think expansion to HHN via islands could happen once Epic Universe opens, if that makes any sense. And I think that just speaks to the like I said, the ever-changing nature of this park. You consider, I know there's a lot of rumors and stuff talking about locations and what's going to happen for next year. I don't know what's going to happen for next year. I don't think I don't know if it's set in stone, at least to us. Obviously, the people that are at the top, the people that are working on it, they know. But we don't really know anything yet. We don't really know until they say, hey, well, we're not putting a house back here, or we are putting a house back here. And of course, there's been all those the permits and stuff, and I think it's fun that they. I think it's fun that they have the sort of the code names kind of throwing them in there now and getting people kind of hyped and excited before the leakers and the people who get the inside information start to put it out. But yeah, I think it's fun to see them kind of take that. And run with it. And I hope, like, as far as Epic Universe goes, I hope we get an announcement next year. I mean, I feel like we're going to, because if it's open in summer 2025 and the hotels are already being like Stella Nova or Stella Luna, you know what? The hotels, the 2 space hotels, they're already booking for January of 2025 and February of 2025, I believe it also. So, it's like, they're already booking. People know Epic Universe is coming. Facade details are coming out. Of course, the monster stuff is really coming along. Potter is starting to come along. I mean, they just put out not too long ago the sort of beacon for that area with a hand holding a wand. So it's going to be Harry Potter or Wizarding World. So, it's like at this point, let us know. Like let us know what's happening for Epic Universe because we already know it's coming. You can't really keep much of a secret anymore once it starts to be visible, and it's not like to the point like obviously people are getting really good construction shots of that, and ride tracks are being laid out. So I think like Epic Universe is at this point where it's just like do a drop, tell everybody what's coming officially, what are the names of stuff, what attractions can we expect, what are some new concept art looking like, maybe throw in a preview center in there if you want to do all that and create this sort of like tribute store style space, and then also you can make some money and throw some merchandise out there to get people hyped because I'm hyped. I'm hyped even with Universal not saying anything, but I would wish they would. Made a very thin outline of what I wish to see at Epic Universe, but is so blue skies bluer than water. Yeah, I mean, the things I'd love to see. I mean, I'm pretty happy with everything that's kind of being rumored. Like, obviously all the monster stuff is what's appealing to me. Obviously, I'm the horror guy. I love horror nights and stuff. So obviously I'm gonna love the Universal monsters. Nintendo World is cool. I'm trying to find a way to go out to Hollywood this year and to see Nintendo World for myself. At least a version of it. We're trying to make it happen, but seeing a version of it, the one in Hollywood, just to kind of get a feel for what it'll be like at Epic Universe. So I'm excited for that enough. I'm not like the biggest Nintendo fan out there. Like I think it's cool. That's just not really me. It's not my thing. But that and then Potter. I like the Wizarding World. I like Diagon Alley a lot. Hogsmeade has its moments. Love Forbidden Journey. So excited to see what they're going to do, especially if they're doing like a Rise of the Resistance style dark ride. I'm all here for that because I think that ride, Rise of Resistance, is a lot of fun, and I would love to see them Universal's kind of take on that. How to Train Your Dragon also is like it's got a lot of potential. I think everything has a lot of potential. I think probably right now my least favorite is the one I'm least sort of anticipating is probably Dragon, just because I love that. I love the series. Like How to Train Your Dragon is a fantastic series, film series. I'm only familiar really with the movies, but the attractions look like a lot of fun. It looks like a great sort of really highly themed environment, kind of in the spirit of the Lost Continent. So I think that's a really exciting one. For Nintendo and Halloween, I wish they changed the Bowser Jr. game at the land for a King Boo game. I think that there's a lot of, and I think right now, especially, we're kind of seeing almost kind of like what Galaxy's Edge did in the beginning, where like Millennium Falcon was supposed to have all these different scenes, all these different missions, and it doesn't. And it's kind of a thing that I hope Universal doesn't just kind of fall into that. Like I remember with VillainCon them saying like, oh, there's the possibility for like new scene or like new additions. I haven't seen anything new in that attraction. I mean, you don't have to have it. Like, it's still a fun ride. But I think like for something like the Nintendo games, you could do like you could do that. But I think they want to leave everything as is right now, especially in Hollywood, because it's the only domestic Nintendo World Open. A lot of people are traveling to Nintendo or to Hollywood to see Nintendo, especially before Epic Universe opens. Obviously, once that opens here, I'm sure it won't like just become whatever. It'll still be a draw for people going to Universal Hollywood, just like Jurassic World and Harry Potter is. But it's really the draw right now because it's the only one here in the States. So I feel like they want to maybe leave it kind of at its base level without any kind of upgrades or any like kind of seasonal things. Almost like kind of how they do with the Haunted Mansion here in Florida. The Haunted Mansion is untouched all year round. They don't do any seasonal anything to it, but in California they have the Haunted Mansion holiday. So I feel like maybe once Epic Universe opens, we might see over in Hollywood, especially those games get updated, or maybe they add some seasonal overlay. Maybe they do more. I know they have some stuff in Japan for Nintendo, like some seasonal stuff they do. I believe maybe for Halloween and the holidays, or just for Halloween, or just for the holidays. I'm not too sure, but I feel like I've seen them do like seasonal stuff there. But yeah, I think that it is a lot of I think it's a lot of fun, and I think they could really have fun with it. And it kind of goes back to the idea of creating this environment that changes to get people to come back and to keep exploring it, versus just doing it. But they don't need to do that right now. But yeah, I mean, I think the future for the parks looks very bright. It's very exciting to see what could be, what could be coming. And, I'm not putting such an expectation on it because everything changes, all the concept changes. Um, you know, I want to say, like, even with Universal, that I feel like is a lot closer to kind of how they advertise stuff. Like I know VillainCon was one that a lot of people had an immediate like knee-jerk reaction because it wasn't exactly what they were expecting it to be, or what it was maybe marketed as. So I'm taking everything kind of with a grain of salt. Some stuff I know is not for me. Like the DreamWorks Land, I'll do videos on it for y'all, for like for the channel, and obviously I want to go see it. I mean, I'm a fan of like Shrek and Kung Fu Panda and stuff, and the franchises that are there, but I'm not the demo. I'm not the target demo for that. I'm not really hitting up playgrounds at the theme parks very often. So I'm really there just to kind of see the experience, see what kind of characters they do, how they really execute the theming aspect of it, and of course, just what they have. But like, same thing goes for that Frisco park. Like, not really my main thing. Like, obviously for me, it's mostly the Horror Unleashed and Epic Universe, which are the most exciting for me. But I think everything is kind of has its excitement. I think I might end it there. I think I might end it here. I think it's been a really fun time. I want to do again more live streams in the future. Coming next year, I really want to do them at least monthly, maybe even every couple weeks, just depending on my schedule. For those who are in here, for the two that are watching, my next video is going to be it's more like get to know me, and also what specifically I'm doing for the channel next year. Like really kind of like big, like my sort of video schedule and what's coming. And I have a lot that I've been working on for months on kind of like laying out a schedule that I like, really refining the channel to be what I imagine it to be and what I want it to be. I'm going to think you guys were going to enjoy the most. So I'm going to put a community post up here. Let's see. One of my goals to make YouTube content creation. You inspire me a lot and continue that dream. So thank you a lot. Have a good year. Thank you, Chemo Dog. And like, I'm gonna put a community post up. So first of all, thank you again. Thank you for the support. I know you're always on my Twitter, retweeting my tweets and sharing the videos. So I really do appreciate that. And it humbles me. It's really humbling to kind of hear that you inspire somebody. So thank you again. That's amazing. But what I'm saying for is I'm going to drop a community tab post about this. So for anybody who's watching this later, maybe not tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to be before the end of the year. I'm planning on dropping probably next Friday, I should say next Friday. Yeah, I think that's a good time, 29th. I'm going to be doing a video, again, get to know me, channel updates, what's happening for next year, as my last video of the year. So I'm going to put a little, not a poll, but like more of a, if you have any questions about me, my story, my interests, anything, obviously within reason, I will put it in the video. I'll make sure to add it in, because I have some ideas, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in and being here, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, have a good holiday, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you, everybody.